Well, my father was 21 when a drunken driver smashed into him when he was riding a motorbike. And he was engaged to my mother at the time, and they came from Staffordshire. And he had to go to Kenya to get his health back. And my mother went out there in the 30s to 1930 itself, I think. And she married him in Mombasa, Kenya, and they had me 6 years later.
Do you remember much about your childhood out there?
Oh, every detail. Mm-hmm. If you ever go to Africa, it stays with you forever, you know. But I miss the country. It's a fantastic country. I can't go there now because of the entertainment business. I used to go on holidays to see my mum and dad, but he was murdered out there. And since 89, I haven't had a chance to go, you know.
Well, like many African countries, it's obviously changed over 30 or 40 years.
They've always admired a good, strong man, you know. They go up to him and they say, we need something. And he says, well, okay, give me something and I'll give you something. And that's how Africa's always been. And they had Jomo Kenyatta, who was a wonderful president, and they had Arap Moi. And now they've got Kabaki, who is a friend of my father's. He knew my father very well. He used to come and have tea with him often. My father played violin, and my mother enjoyed music. She wasn't that particularly musical. She enjoyed it. She was a teacher. And she was a lawyer's secretary during the war for the army and so on. So although we had a lot of music in the house, on the radio and on records and so on, I was brought up by the Africans because the war came along and they had things to do. And so I learned African songs. My friends were all little Africans. I ate their food and so on, and I spoke their language. And my mother, in fact, thought I'd never speak English at one stage.
You may have had ideas on a career, one of which I think was medicine, wasn't it?
Yes, you know, up until we had Mau in Kenya, we were just students working at school. But for the last 2 years of my school career, we knew we'd have to go into the army for a couple of years, maybe longer, because we had no choice. I wanted to go to university straight from school, but they said no, and I'm glad they did, because it was the making of me, you know. The British Army makes a man out of you, makes you independent, makes you realise that there are other people in the world as well as yourself. And I'm just sorry it isn't still in place, you know.
University of Cape Town in South Africa, some teaching along the way as well. But all this time, presumably, you're singing and playing, are you?
Well, it's like, you know, you can do something well. If anybody said to me, what would you like your children to have? Naturally, I would say some talent that they could use in their life and make their living out of. I always knew I could sing, and somehow life has always brought me back to it, you know. Before I left university, I had a hit in the charts called Steel Men. So I was over the big hurdles that young entertainers find before I'd even graduated. So I said to my father, well, it's there and I'm going to use it for a year or two and then I'll go back to a serious career, you know.
You then come over to Great Britain, to Wales, actually.
Yeah.
And that's really, how you came over here. I guess coming to Bangor really opened a door in terms of music for you as well, did it?
Well, I was already doing jingles, doing cabaret, when I was at home on holidays and things from university. And I knew that if I didn't keep a lid on it, this would probably take me over. And I wouldn't succeed at university either. And I decided that none of it would happen while I was at university. But I gave way on the singing when we had Rag Festival, you know. Every year we collected money for charity cancer research, I think it was. And I took part in the university Rag show. And I suggested that we made some songs, put them down on tape, and persuaded the companies that press those little plastic records they used to put into cereals. Pressed 5,000 of those for us, and we sent the kids out on the street selling them at 3 and 6 each, you know. Made a lot of money. And the second year, which was 61, I said, let's do it properly. Let's go down to London and make a better quality tape, which we did. And this found its way into the hands of a music publisher who took it along to a record company, and they offered me a contract.
I mean, at that stage, you obviously had difficult decisions to make, and if many people in that position had asked for advice from parents, from university lecturers, whoever, then the advice they'd be given would be perhaps to get an education, to get a training behind you before you take any risks. But your advice that you received from your professor at university was to the contrary, wasn't it? It was take a risk.
Well, he gave me 10 years. I said, I want to just go into the entertainment business and get it out of my system. And he said to me, well, I'd like to see you back in the labs working in biochemistry. And so if you decide to give it up within 10 years, just tell me and come back and work here.